Bien, hoy aprovechando que voy a estar unos días de vacaciones, os traigo esta vieja entrevista de Sam que decía, pues bueno, qué ocurrirá cuando llegue AGI, me parece interesante. Y bueno, si sale alguna mega noticia de inteligencia artificial, posiblemente no la cubra, aunque seguiré sacando vídeos a diario, porque estoy unos días de vacaciones sin ordenador. Vamos a ver la entrevista, que está bastante interesante.
So one of the main concerns here is something called AI takeoff or fast takeoff. That the exponential improvement will be really fast, to where
like in days.
In days, yeah. I mean, there's this is an this is a pretty serious. At least to me, it's become more of a serious concern. Just how amazing ChatGPT turned out to be, and then the improvement in GPT-4.
Yeah.
Almost like to where it surprised everyone. Seemingly, you can correct me, including you.
So GPT-4 has not surprised me at all in terms of reception there. ChatGPT surprised us a little bit, but I still was like advocating that we do it because I thought it was going to do really great.
Yeah.
So like, maybe I thought it would have been like the 10th fastest growing product in history and not the number one fastest. Or like, okay, I think it's like hard. You should never kind of assume something's going to be like the most successful product launch ever. But we thought it was, or at least many of us thought it was going to be really good. GPT-4 has weirdly not been that much of an update for most people. They're like, oh, it's better than 3.5, but I thought it was going to be better than 3.5, and it's cool, but, this is like... Someone said to me over the weekend, you shipped an AGI, and I somehow, am just going about my daily life, and I'm not that impressed. And I obviously don't think we shipped an AGI, but I get the point, and the world is continuing on.
When you build, or somebody builds an artificial general intelligence, would that be fast or slow? Would we know what's happening or not? Would we go about our day on the weekend or not?
So I'll come back to the would we go about our day or not thing. I think there's a bunch of interesting lessons from COVID and the UFO videos and a whole bunch of other stuff that we can talk to there.
Yeah.
But on the takeoff question, if we imagine a 2x2 matrix of short timelines till AGI starts, long timelines till AGI starts, slow takeoff, fast takeoff, do you have an instinct on what do you think the safest quadrant would be?
So the different options are next year.
Yeah, say the takeoff, that we start the takeoff period.
Yep.
Next year or in 20 years.
20 years.
And then it takes 1 year or 10 years. Well, you can even say 1 year or 5 years, whatever you want for the takeoff.
I feel like now is safer.
So do I. So I'm in the
longer now.
I'm in the slow takeoff, short timelines is the most likely good world, and we optimize the company to have maximum impact in that world, to try to push for that kind of a world. And the decisions that we make are, there's probability masses, but weighted towards that. And I think I'm very afraid of the fast takeoffs. I think in the longer timelines, it's harder to have a slow takeoff. There's a bunch of other problems too. But that's what we're trying to do. Do you think GPT-4 is an AGI?
I think if it is, just like with the UFO videos, we wouldn't know immediately. I think it's actually hard to know that. I've been thinking, I've been playing with GPT-4 and thinking, how would I know if it's an AGI or not? Because I think, in terms of, to put it in a different way, how much of AGI is the interface I have with the thing, and how much of it is the actual wisdom inside of it? Part of me thinks that you could have a model that's capable of super intelligence, and it just hasn't been quite unlocked. What I saw with ChatGPT, just doing that little bit of RL with human feedback, makes the thing somewhat much more impressive, much more usable. So maybe if you have a few more tricks, like you said, there's hundreds of tricks inside OpenAI, a few more tricks, and all of a sudden, holy shit.
Bien, San Altman ha estado en la Universidad de Stanford y bueno, vamos a ver un poquito lo que ha comentado, como siempre cosas interesantes y bueno, va a ser un pequeño resumen de todo este vídeo de 45 minutos. Os dejo en el enlace del vídeo por si lo queréis ver entero, pero bueno, esto es lo que yo pienso que es más importante.
You always feel
Yeah.
And then one last question, and what are you most excited about with ChatGPT-5 that's coming out that people don't? What are you most excited about with the release of ChatGPT-5 that we're all going to see?
I don't know yet. I mean, this sounds like a cop-out answer, but I think the most important thing about GPT-5 or whatever we call that is just that it's going to be smarter. And this sounds like a dodge, but I think that's like among the most remarkable facts in human history, that we can just do something and we can say right now with a high degree of scientific certainty, GPT-5 is going to be a lot smarter than GPT-4. GPT-6 is going to be a lot smarter than GPT-5, and we are not near the top of this curve, and we kind of know what to do. And this is not like it's going to get better in one area. This is not like we're going to, it's not that it's always going to get better at this eval or this subject or this modality. It's just going to be smarter in the general sense. And I think the gravity of that statement is still like underrated.
Sam, guys, Sam is really here for you. He wants to answer your question. So we're going to open it up.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm a junior here at Stanford. I sort of wanted to talk to you about responsible deployment of AGI. So as you guys continually inch closer to that, how do you plan to deploy that responsibly at OpenAI, to prevent stifling human innovation and continue to spur that?
So I'm actually not worried at all about stifling of human innovation. I really deeply believe that people will just surprise us on the upside with better tools. I think all of history suggests that if you give people more leverage, they do more amazing things. And that's kind of like, we all get to benefit from that. That's just kind of great. I am, though, increasingly worried about how we're going to do this all responsibly. I think as the models get more capable, we have a higher and higher bar. We do a lot of things like red teaming and external audits, and I think those are all really good. But I think as the models get more capable, we'll have to deploy even more iteratively, have an even tighter feedback loop on looking at how they're used and where they work and where they don't work. And this world that we used to do, where we can release a major model update every couple of years, we probably have to find ways to like increase the granularity on that and deploy more iteratively than we have in the past. And it's not super obvious to us yet how to do that, but I think that'll be key to responsible deployment. And also the way we kind of have all of the stakeholders negotiate what the rules of AI need to be, that's going to get more complex over time too.
Thank you. Next question that we're here.
You mentioned before that there's a growing need for larger and larger computers and faster computers. However, many parts of the world don't have the infrastructure to build those data centers or those large computers. How do you see global innovation being impacted by that?
So two parts to that. One, no matter where the computers are built, I think global and equitable access to use the computers for training as well as inference is super important. One of the things that's like very core to our mission is that we make ChatGPT available for free to as many people as want to use it, with the exception of certain countries where we either can't or don't for a good reason want to operate. How we think about making training compute more available to the world is going to become increasingly important. I do think we get to a world where we sort of think about it as a human right to get access to a certain amount of compute, and we got to figure out how to like distribute that to people all around the world. There's a second thing, though, which is I think countries are going to increasingly realize the importance of having their own AI infrastructure, and we want to figure out a way, and we're now spending a lot of time traveling around the world to build them in the many countries that will want to build these, and I hope we can play some small role there in helping that happen.
Terrific, thank you.
My question was, what role do you envision for AI in the future of like space exploration or like colonization?
I think space is like not that hospitable for biological life, obviously. And so if we can send the robots, that seems easier.
Hey, Sam. So my question is for a lot of the founders in the room. And I'm going to give you the question, and then I'm going to explain why I think it's complicated. So my question is about how you know an idea is non-consensus. And the reason I think it's complicated is because it's easy to overthink. I think today, even yourself says AI is the place to start a company. I think that's pretty consensus. Maybe rightfully so. It's an inflection point. I think it's hard to know if an idea is non-consensus depending on the group that you're talking about. The general public has a different view of tech from the tech community, and even tech elites have a different point of view from the tech community. So I was wondering how you verify that your idea is non-consensus enough to pursue.
I mean, first of all, what you really want is to be right. Being contrarian and wrong still is wrong. And if you predicted like 17 out of the last 2 recessions, you probably were contrarian for the 2 you got right. Probably, not even necessarily. But you were wrong 15 other times. And so I think it's easy to get too excited about being contrarian. And again, like, the most important thing is to be right. And the group is usually right. But where the most value is when you are contrarian and right. And that doesn't always happen in like sort of a 0 or 1 kind of way. Like, everybody in the room can agree that AI is the right place to start a company. And if one person in the room figures out the right company to start and then successfully executes on that and everybody else thinks, oh, that wasn't the best thing you could do, that's what matters. So it's okay to kind of like go with conventional wisdom when it's right and then find the area where you have some unique insight. In terms of how to do that, I do think surrounding yourself with the right peer group is really important, and finding original thinkers is important. But there is part of this where you kind of have to do it solo, or at least part of it solo, or with a few other people who are like, going to be your co-founders or whatever. And I think by the time you're too far in the like, how can I find the right peer group, you're somehow in the wrong framework already. So like learning to trust yourself and your own intuition and your own thought process, which gets much easier over time. No one, no matter what they say, I think is like truly great at this when they're just starting out. Yeah, because like you kind of just haven't built the muscle, and like all of your social pressure and all of like the evolutionary pressure that produced you was against that. So it's something that like you get better at over time, and don't hold yourself to too high of a standard too early on it.
Hi Sam,
Bueno, bastante interesante. Bueno, como ya sabemos, siempre da charlas y bueno, quería hacerle hoy ver las preguntas que le hacían los asistentes al evento y bueno, también sobre todo comenzó diciendo lo típico, igual que hace Apple cuando lanza un nuevo teléfono, te dice que es mejor que el anterior, que lo das por hecho, y lo mismo decía de GPT-5, que será muchísimo mejor que GPT-4 y GPT-6 será pues mejor que GPT-5. Así que nada, bastante interesante la charla. Os dejo el link más abajo por si queréis ver el vídeo completo de la charla que dio en Stanford. Y como siempre, suscribiros, darle a like y comentar y nos vemos.